Today is June 2nd in the year 2010. I'm Karen Herman with the Archive of American Television, and it is my great pleasure today to be doing our Part 2 interview with Edward Asner here at his home in Valley Village. With us, the last time we were interviewing you was 1999.
What? That was another century. That's Ouija.
And quite a bit has happened since then.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, but before we do that, I'd like to go back a little bit on some of the things that were covered in the first interview that we kind of skipped over a little bit. And the first thing is you did an Outer Limits way back.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that experience?
Well, it was a favorite show of mine. I loved watching it. One of the first shows with Dave McCallum, and I can't remember who else was in it. The wonderful actor who played Professor Higgins. I can't remember him. Very poetical show, and most of them were beautiful. And I was very excited about getting it, being cast in it. And it was about a mysterious energy force that destroyed. And I was the detective seeking why these people were dying. So, check it out. Barbara Luna was in it, and Scott, I can't remember. Names escape me these days. I'm a tiger on lines, but names are bye-bye. Anyway, I was Michael, not Strong. I got his first name, Michael. And the story was dreadful. I mean, here I am snooping, detecting, and finally I get trapped by the monster. And I had to improvise my being sucked into this, that's my cat, into this energy maelstrom and being killed. And I was not carried away, so to speak. So here was this wonderful show that I couldn't wait to get on. And yet, people who didn't know the history on it found it entertaining, found it enjoyable, so I shouldn't complain. But it was a disappointment for me because I was not swept away by the story.
How were you able, as an actor, that scene of you being sucked into that massive energy, how were you able to do that since there were special effects? How did you do it?
Yeah, no special effects, you improvise. Even when you're not an improv actor, you have to come up with the improv, sometimes whether you like it or not. I would have loved to have been sucked into a real vacuum and rendered apart. I would have enjoyed the experience. Unfortunately, that was not the case in this particular episode.
You also did The Defenders.
Oh, that's before I came to California. Yeah. And The Defenders I did, actually, well, I did the pilot to The Defenders, and I was the foreman of the jury. Then when I came to California, I went back and I did, was it one or two? First one, I went back, took the red eye, and Elliot Silverstein was directing. William Shatner was my brother, who was an assistant, a district attorney. And the show opens with me killing my mistress, girlfriend, whatever. Or I can't remember, maybe it opens with my looking at what I've just killed. You want him gone?
Is that right?
And so I desperately call my brother, and he comes there to rescue me, and I tell him it was an accident. I killed her by accident, so on and so on. This was all the pre-show before even the credits started to roll. So I had been on the red eye, and the lines were hysterical and so on. It was very difficult for me to be free of the lines. Tried hard. Silverstein was a harsh taskmaster, and William Shatner was playing it real cool. The first thing, by the way, that happened was that I had to take the red eye because they wanted me there for the reading. The reading consisted of E.G. Marshall, Bill Shatner, Robert Reed, and me. So I go in there, and I'm dragging with fatigue, and we sit around the table, and I can't hear E.G. or Shatner. They're both saying who can be the lowest talker in the room while they're doing their lines. Robert Reed was wonderful and lovely and up there. I was trying to do my best in terms of volume. I couldn't hear them at all. And I thought, this is what I took a red eye to be part of this circus. So then I had to go back and try to get off the lines, which was difficult, for a very early call the next day. Next day, that opens with that scene. And I brought it off, but I was not in control, and that always bothered me, being out of control.
And how do you deal with that, though, when that does happen, when you feel out of control as an actor?
I guess you do a lot of secret praying, which I don't remember. You're there. The pin is pinning you to the wallboard. You've got to move your arms and your legs and your body. What is that phone? Charles?
Okay, back on.
We were talking about Defenders, and you asked, how do I keep from getting panicky? And you concentrate on the basics. You concentrate on be as perfect as you can on the lines. You work on your breath control. You keep telling yourself, stop being a schmuck, stop being a schmuck. And you concentrate. Even this will not, save you, but you've got to go back to basics and rely on the basics.
How was it working with Robert Reed and E.G. Marshall?
I loved Robert Reed. I later did a 90-minute movie with Robert Reed. I found him to be one of the most unheralded actors in Hollywood that you could find. He was a gentleman all the way, never fouled the nest, and he was the right stuff. E.G. I was very disappointed in. He was an actor who always talked about TV is nothing. The stage. And then when he did his TV, he had his lines pinned on whatever actor he was working with, so he could read them. It's a good thing he had good eyes, but his memory evidently was not as effective as it should have been.
And you mentioned William Shatner, who'd been in the pilot for the Defenders. Wasn't he originally in the
He may have been the son.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember what he was. Steve McQueen was the accused in that pilot. Who Who else? I can't remember who else. Yeah, Shatner might have done the Robert Reed role.
Did you ever have any instances of working with Herb Brodkin himself?
No. I admired him enormously for the standards of the quality of the shows he produced. I don't even know if I ever met him. I don't think so. But good stuff. Very good stuff.
Another thing we glossed over in the first interview was that you had worked on 2 Elvis Presley films.
He was a good guy. I liked him. I liked him a lot. The first show was Kid Galahad, and Elvis had his entourage of good old boys with him at that time, and he was going through his karate phase. So his fingers were all being broken, and he was busy breaking bricks and boards and this and that. So I looked at this effort he was putting out and thought, how silly. And then, but he did his work, didn't make any problems, no trouble. And I guess his good old boys took care of whatever trouble arose concerning him. And the second time was Change of Habit with Mary Tyler Moore, although I didn't work with her, and Barbara McNair, and I can't remember the other young nun. And he had become a different person by then. He was becoming an actor. And once again, he didn't screw up, didn't make a mess, didn't foul any nest, and showed up and did his work as best he could. So he was not a problem maker.
Did you have any personal interactions with him, or was it all very professional?
Yeah, just slightly. There was a scene in a grocery store with Tim Carey, and I believe he was involved with that, just peripherally. I was a good cop. I was a sympathetic cop, and Tim Carey was making problems, and I shushed him up. That was quite Tim Carey was quite a piece of work. I guess he's still around. Is he still alive? I'm told of the great story when, what was it, Appaloosa or one of the Brando pictures. And I forget whether Brando was directing or what it was. Slim Pickens was there. And if it was Brando, the director said, well, this fight that takes place between Tim Carey and Slim Pickens, and you guys can work it out yourselves, right? And Carey says, "Yeah, I can. I can grab him. I can punch him in the stomach, and then I can punch him in the jaw." And he was doing some connecting with Slim Pickens, and Pickens, who was a wonderful rodeo clown before he became an actor, and he was a wonderful actor, and he said, "Yeah," and then I could knee him in the crotch like that, and he kneed him in the crotch and made him like that, and I think he quieted Tim Carey down at that point.
So you, in terms of your movie career, did you prefer television to movies? Because you've done both, but you really did more television in those days.
No, I doing movies in those days, most of them seemed to be studio movies. Well, it's like doing a Cadillac instead of a Buick. The TV I did more often than not was meaningful and intelligent and literate, as were the movies. But the movies just took a long time. I often said that the acting that's done on television at least in those days, I won't talk about now, in those days was as good, if not better, except they had to do it faster. And that primarily was the only difference I ever felt in distinction between television and movies.
Do you think other actors had a kind of snobbery about it?
Oh, movie actors definitely have a snobbery. When you're doing TV, you got to bring the grocery store with you. You got to bring the cleaners. You more often than not have to improvise on the spot. You've got to learn 8 pages a day at least, more. You do a movie, you do 3 pages, and here's the cleaners, here's the grocery store, here's the makeup, here's the cut, and I think movies have cheapened up now so that those phenomenal creature comforts that existed in those days are fewer and far between. I think they've tended to equalize, although I think TV has, at the same time, cheapened up somewhat as well.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Mary Tyler Moore Show, some specific episodes that you were key in. Starting with Thoroughly Unmilitant Mary, that's the one where Lou has to take Ted's place reading the news. The strike.
I really don't recall much about it except that I was a rotten on-air news speaker. I can't remember what happened on that one. She took over. Yeah, because I was bombing so badly, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where was Ted?
There was a strike and he couldn't be on.
Yeah. So Mary and I scabbed. Yeah. Well, I'm sure Lou felt as I did in those days, that he hated being counterproductive to the union, so he probably, in his unconscious, doomed himself to bomb. And he did a good job of it. Mary, being the innocent as she always was, could not be troubled by such things.
Another favorite episode at Lou's place.
Yeah. Alexander's Ragtime Band. I had always reminisced about how great it was to have your own bar, to have your own coterie of friends and well-wishers coming in regularly, the regulars, and singing songs together. And with the extras that we had, the atmosphere we had working on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, it was very good, very easy to create the deadness that Lou's bar created. And they were all like zombies, and there was no happiness, there was no singing, and I'm probably very little drinking. So I was going broke fast, and the camaraderie I felt for my fellow man and woman disappeared very quickly, so they became practically violent, urging and coaxing them to sing Alexander's Ragtime Band.
Do you remember when you first saw that script, how you felt about it?
Well, because it was so focused on me, I probably was intimidated by it. I can't recall much else. No, I'm a dead fish on these questions today.
No. The Lou and Edie story.
The what?
The Lou and Edie story.
That was touching. That was... the way I felt about that really was... and I can't remember the name of the actress. What was her name?
Priscilla Morel.
Yeah. Since deceased. I felt terrible because here she was being brought in on this hit show. She's going to play my wife. And what, 2, 3 episodes later, she's divorcing me. And I thought, I wonder how misled she was. The MTM people were fairly straight, so they may have told her that. But certainly for the first one, she was not aware that she was going to get the boot very shortly.
Were you aware?
No, not at all. I remember being shocked when I read the script where she's divorcing me. It's a great acting for me to do. I mean, the hysteria and the grief I felt. She's leaving me and this and that. A lot of wonderful things for me to play, but the whole time it was happening, I'm not presenting myself a good guy here, but I was identifying with the other actor who was thinking she may have had a great gig going here, and it was being yanked away. So I identified with Priscilla off stage, not while I was acting.
Did you ever talk to her about that?
No.
Because again, those scenes were really they were quite poignant. Did you?
Yeah.
Did you guys rehearse together, just the two of you, or anything like that?
I don't recall the two of us rehearsing together. No. But she was wonderful to work with, and she came very highly regarded. The whole crew of women from that. I think she was a Carnegie graduate as well, wasn't she? I'm not sure. But they all seemed to think very highly of her.
Do you know if anyone else was considered for that part?
No. Who?
I don't know.
Oh. I thought the way things are going down these days, probably Betty White. Waiting for you to come up with Betty White.
Okay.
Have you not witnessed this phenomenon of Betty White?
Okay.
She's going to be more famous than Rinso White.
Well, talking about Betty White, Once I Had a Secret Love, the classic Betty White episode.
That was a sea change for me. Almost the whole time we'd done the show up until then, I was always looking for the laughs, how to set up for the laugh, how to play the laugh. When I come in looking like death warmed over, and it turns out that evidently I was drunk and with Betty and Sue Ann, that is. And I don't know what happened. And then she comes in and gives me the sock I left at her place that she laundered. And it becomes quite apparent to Mary that I slept with Betty White. And I feel awful. I certainly can't recount any excitation I had. And then by inadvertence, I suppose, Mary reveals it to Murray, who then can't resist revealing to me that he knows. And I come to that as the ultimate betrayal by my girl, Mary Tyler Moore. She betrayed me. She revealed that I had slept with Betty White. That bitch. Boy. So, this is where the sea change came in for me. I played it as if it were me, not Lou. Get away from me. I've got nothing to do. We'll work together. I was very. I don't know if I could have played it any other way, but it was very interesting to me to play it as I would have played it as Ed Asner.
How would Lou Grant have played it?
Well, if I had the lines, I'd probably be more grandiose. Make it less inward. Now we'll work together. You'll do what I tell you, and that's the way it'll be. And I didn't do it that way. I said, no, I took it in, played it in, and I stabbed her good with that delivery. And then the denouement of the show, when she comes in and she talks about how she had an affair that I think she never told me about, and she gives a big build-up, and then she says, and that man was Walter Cronkite. And something in there designed to get me to crack a smile. And she begins playing with my cheek. Come on, you can. And we reunite.
Now, you talked about the sea change in the character. How did that then manifest itself for the rest of the series?
How did what?
How did it manifest itself for the rest of the series? Did more?
No, I didn't stay with it. I didn't stay with it, but there was, in that same era, we were heading towards the Lou and Mary go out on a date, and the kiss on the couch and all that. And so we were shooting up. I think it was the same year, but I'm not sure.
It was actually 1 year apart.
They were?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think even then we were kind of marching to the drummer.
When did you know that would eventually, that a date would happen in that series?
Oh, they didn't really reveal it. I don't recall being told a long time before. It was in the works, and that was it.
Do you think it was handled well, the way that it was done?
Well, I had, in my own way, always been preparing for making the move on Mary, and wondered when they would wake up and see the light and write the script. Took them a long time. So that if the show was going to go on maybe for another, then it would have become a Desi and Lucy show, I suppose. And I certainly didn't want to do that. So I guess they ended it in that particular episode with laughing at our kiss together. As at Asner, I was, terribly put out that she wasn't swooning over my kiss, so that the ladies in the audience could do the same swooning vicariously, and I could further my shares as a lover. So my nose was out of joint about that, of course. But the objective part of me realizes that that's the way it should have been. It's the same way with the last show when we're all huddled together crying, and Jim Brooks says, now, can you think of some way to get out of this without breaking the huddle? And somebody says, well, we could go for the Kleenex on the desk. So I said, try that. So we inch over as a group to get the Kleenex and blow our noses and wipe our tears. And it worked. And that same effect was used with the kiss with Mary and me. Both of us laughing at each other for trying to become something that we weren't to each other.
So did you before you did that scene, did you and Mary talk about it, how you were going to handle it?
No. We did not do it. We almost, the only time I could cite you something like that, I may have done this the first time you interviewed me. We didn't discuss. The girls would drive us nuts because they'd work a scene to death and work Jay Sandrich to death, trying to shape it up to their taste. And we'd be waiting in our dressing rooms, waiting to work, and, you know, bing, 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 when we worked the boys.
Who are the girls and who are the boys?
Rhoda, Mary, Phyllis, the trio, the three witches. And certainly we had jealousy because spending so much time working on them, and we wanted to strut our stuff. So the only time I remember something being discussed like that, Ted had a turn by himself, and Gavin and I were sitting in the stands watching. And it was funny as hell. So he comes up to me and he says, "Now, I want you to watch this. I'm going to try it this way this time. Tell me what you think." He tried it a different way the second time. Just as funny. Wonderful. And I'm sure each of us thought, that bastard, that dirty bastard. We would struggle and strive to get it right the first time. Here he flips this one over, and then he does it a second way, and he does that. And he comes back again. He says, "Now, this time I'm going to try it this way. Tell me what you think." He tried it a third way. Still nailed it. Solid. We hated him very much. Very much we hated him. And finally, when he did it, it was primarily the first method he used to present his scene. But he was a piece of work.
Was there a lot of one-upmanship going on?
Not really, no. Amazingly enough, I would say that the boys felt threatened by Rhoda because everybody just seemed to be tickled pink with her, the producers, etc. And while she was there, our time on stage was limited. Once Rhoda went off and did her own show, we began to get a lot of feed on our own. So then what was the question?
We were talking about input, where you had a...
Somebody was at the window, that's why I... Talking about...
the input that you would have into your character or into a script, where you really build.
No, you asked about one-upmanship, and I would say never. Once... And there wasn't any direct competition. It was just that the focus was always on the girls with Rhoda there. And that diminished when Rhoda left so that there was more time for the guys in the newsroom. It shifted more out of Mary's apartment and into the newsroom. I don't think I've ever been on a show where the cast sought to be as supportive in every way to each other as they could be. Mary took the cake for that. Wherever the underlings could shine, she would defer. She would always defer. Smart girl. And she created this wonderful band of loonies around her, with her being the hub, and it certainly paid off well for her. But whenever it was necessary for her to shine, she always had the muscle. She could always deliver. so that it wasn't selfish, it wasn't fear that dictated her actions. It was a true, wonderful generosity, which created the magic and the mystique of the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Well, even more, since the last time in '99, Chuckles Bites the Dust sort of has been continuously lauded as one of the top comic episodes.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your experiences on that?
I didn't tell you that the first time?
You told us a little bit, but not everything.
Well, it was, we had 2 shows left to do, and Jay Sandrich was going to get off one of them to take a vacation. And we, the cast, read Chuckles and thought, oh my God, how brilliant. It was a David Lloyd show, and he was always brilliant. And found out that Jay chose to do the other show. We thought, what the hell's wrong with him? Is he nuts? My God, how could he not be here with this show? So they brought in Joan Darling. And I had met her before. I gather she eventually taught classes. I don't know if she's still directing. But she came in her Mercedes convertible, and I looked, and her license plate, which said Mensa. And I thought, oh boy, are we in for trouble? We weren't. Because by that time, no guest director could anticipate our moves or what we were going to do. So she moved the camera for the most part, and we did the acting. But we had an old crew. I've always said this. And as the week went on and we rehearsed with our old crew, they weren't laughing. Came to think, too many death jokes. So that disturbed me. We got to our Friday run-through, and it was an excellent run-through. And Alan Burns came up to us and said, I don't know what to say. We're about 5-6 minutes short. The show's in great shape, but we're 5-6 minutes short, which presented us with the idea that we'd have to come back at hiatus or the following season to add a scene out of context for this perfect show. We didn't know what to do. So honestly, just play the hell out of it. Do what you can with it. Well, went into the first scene where Chuckles' death is announced by Murray. And he kept doing one-liners with me in my office. And I brought myself to just breaking up entirely. Ah! Stop it! And I laughed genuinely for the first time on that show, and I feel certain that it was infectious for the audience, because by the time we finished the scene had been extended by a minute, and that same effect was generated throughout all the rest of the scenes, adding minutes with audience coming in, and contributing to lengthening the show. And we played it big. And by the time we finished the run-through that night, not the run-through, the performance that night, we had a fully timed show. And it went on to be regarded as a classic, and it should be.
Why do you think that is?
Why do I think what is?
That it's a classic. Why does it hold up so well?
Oh, the laughs are great. I think just the whole premise of the show, with Mary being naughty, 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 naughty. You shouldn't make fun of death. You shouldn't make fun of death. Stop making these jokes. And then when we get, and the minister, John, I can't remember his name either, John something or other is saying, and he quotes some of Chuckle's lines, and all of this week of chiding by Mary for us to stop making fun of the dead. I mean, the one-liners were, born in a trunk, died in a trunk, and Chuckles was dressed as Mr. Peanut. You know what it's like when you've had one, you need more, stuff like that. So that there are laugh lines sprinkled through, so that in the when John, I forget his name, gives the eulogy, and he cites some of Chuckles' lines, a little seltzer, a little dance,
song, a little dance, yeah.
a little seltzer down your pants, a little song, a little dance, a little seltzer down your pants. Mary finally snaps and begins laughing throughout his eulogy. And of course, we, having got a grip on ourselves, now that we're at the church, look at her. My God. I mean, how bad taste that is. Bad taste. And she breaks into tears beautifully at embarrassing herself so badly.
That's a great episode.
Yeah.
What is your favorite Lou Grant moment?
You ask the tough questions, don't you? My favorite Lou Grant moment. Being hired. My favorite Lou Grant moment was just doing the goddamn script. I so remember that when we were in a very iffy situation before the first week of the show. I mean, how could I deny you got spunk? I mean, that has to be a high point. That was the first show. And I feel it was the trigger that sent that show scooting through the rest of the evening on safe ground. The audience was in our hands.
Was that line in the first script that you read?
Yeah. So that I was we were on for 13. And I had seen some of the other scripts that were coming up, and they were all beautiful and brilliant, great. And everybody was wondering and worrying, are we going to be picked up? Are we going to be picked up? Oh boy, are we going to? And all I could think of was, I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. I get to do this character in this show at this time. What a gift that is. And the other 12 shows are as good, if not better, than this show. So no matter how long I'm in Hollywood, I said, I'll have these 13 weeks to quell and celebrate and relish. And for once I was right.
Where would Lou
The other funny thing was, Jay said, now, the first year people don't know you, they won't recognize you on the street, so forth and so on. But by the second year, you'll really start to see a big change in people's attitude to you on the streets. And that was all true in the first year. And Gavin and Ted and I, we would go to dinner, to lunch together. So, second year we're going to lunch and we're going down the street, and I can see people, doing that preliminary spotting, and I, being Mr. Humble Harv, would of course, look away and ignore and just go about my business. Ted was like almost doing this. He was wallowing in it. It was just beautiful to watch that.
What about Gavin?
Gavin liked to be the observer, Gavin was always tittering and tee-heeing about Ted. He was, and Gavin, in those days, would always find the humor in anything. And chuckle always. Always find the comedy.
Where do you think Lou Grant would be today?
Where'd he be today? Peoria.
What would he be doing?
Either writing the obits or the editor of the paper there. Obits, writing about religion maybe. Who knows? But just putting in his time. Well, he'd be collecting his pension. I think he'd probably have his pension now. He'd probably do that. He'd have his favorite bar, I suppose. Maybe they'd sing Alexander's Ragtime Band there.
Do you miss Lou Grant?
I liked him a lot. He was a straight shooter, a good guy. He wasn't deep, but you'll find plenty of phonies out there who'll give you deep. But Lou would give you friendship, or he'd give you enmity. I don't know if did I tell you the story of when I get a letter from an old girlfriend who writes that she's coming to town, she'd like to see me. She had sent me a Dear John letter while I was in a foxhole in France. And we had been given chipped beef for our meal that day, which was in my helmet. And when I read that Dear John letter, I then turned and poured the chipped beef over the guy in the next foxhole to vent my anger. So I get this letter, and I say, that rotten, no good, rotten, no good. And Mary said, oh, stop it. She talks me into seeing this old girlfriend who's trying to make amends, and so give her a chance. So, all right. Well, when I read that script, I thought Beverly Garland had been cold to me when I did 3 days on her Decoy in New York. I think it was, Casey somebody, crime photographer, and that's what it was. So I was hurt that she didn't greet me warmly when I came on to do her show. Stuart Rosenberg was the director, and he made my life miserable. So I said, who'd be great for that? That girlfriend? And Jay said, who? Beverly Garland. Yeah. So, and he passed the word on to the producers. They liked the idea. She liked the idea of doing it. So, of course, we do the scene, and I don't know if Beverly ever knew or not. But we're at dinner, and I'm falling in love all over again. And she's a knockout. She's playing a knockout. Looks good. Finally, at the end of the dinner, listen, Luke, could you loan me $100? Or give me $100? My boyfriend's trumpet's in Hock. We want to get out of Hock so we can go to Vegas and he can do a gig there. I look at her. We've ordered Cherry's Jubilee for dessert. And I said, well, sure. Give her $100. And I realized the dream is not to be, and that she's just plagued me for some more sucker. So I start to eat the Cherry's Jubilee, and I really have to get back, but it's been great seeing you again. Big goodbye. And then I start to leave, and I say, oh, what the hell. I pick up the Cherry Jubilee and dump it on her head. She loved it. We did it twice. She loved doing it. She never knew I was getting my revenge. And it was a good show.
Oh, it's a great story, which you did not tell in the first.
No.
No. It was Lou Douses an Old Flame is the name of the episode.
Mm-hmm. Douses an Old Flame?
Yeah. I guess let's move on to those post-'99 years, and I'll start with, you were nominated for an Emmy for The Trials of Rosie O'Neill, 1992.
I was?
Yeah.
I don't remember what I did. I don't know what the show consisted of. I liked doing the show. I liked wearing... Sharon was... Ron Rifkin was on the show. He was always wonderful. She had some good people on that show.
Another show that you did many episodes for was The Closer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk about that experience. Talk about your character.
About what?
Talk about your character, Carl Dobson.
Well, I during the early part, I was busy looking. It was very refreshing working with Tom. He was quite enjoyable to be with. David Krumholtz was on the show. Penny, lovely actress. Can't remember her last name. A couple of good actresses on the show. I think that show would have gone on and made it, except I think Tom Selleck and Les Moonves were at loggerheads with each other at that time, and made it very easy for Les to pull the plug. Not much I can say about it. There was one good moment where whose parents come to town? It must be David Krumholtz's. And I had just eaten, I think somebody had given me some doped up brownies. And I was staggering around, feeling the effects of this brownie I had eaten. And the actor has since died, but he's a good actor, playing the father of David Krumholtz. So I'm introduced to him, and I don't know if it was in the script or not, I kiss him fully on the lips. And then walk off as if nothing had happened, nothing special. It was quite normal. And of course, he played it with the total flustering that it should have provided to any normal male. It was a good moment. That's about all I remember from that particular piece.
You did a guest spot on The Simpsons.
There was a wonderful voiceover actor. What the hell was his name? I can't remember names. But he was always playing gay. And a big, beefy son would do a John Wayne like that. But he always had a wonderful knack of kissing you whenever it came around. Male kissing. So I ran into him someplace, some theater or something, and I said, hey, and then I grabbed him and I kissed him. And thinking I was going to set him back. I think it was on the lips. What did he do? He stuck his tongue in my mouth. You couldn't top him. You couldn't top him. He was a wonderful actor. Damn it. I'm sorry.
I didn't think of it. You did a guest spot on The Simpsons. You remember voiceover?
I don't really remember that much.
Okay. And then Studio 60 on Sunset Strip.
I was proud of what we did there. I thought we had something very good going. And working with Steven Weber was just a wonderful delight. Our blending, our meshing was really wonderful. Enjoyed that a lot.
Can you talk about Wilson White as a character?
Well, I guess he was Aaron's version of Rupert Murdoch. I don't know. A man of the world, a man who owned the world. And Aaron gave me some, once we got going, and that's the sad part of it. Not until the latter half of whatever I did on that show did I begin to have meat which implied a fascinating character who was busy pulling the strings and who was busy surviving and fighting the battle and winning the battle. And he wrote it beautifully. It flowed like honey from me. I could see the genius of the man and what he did with West Wing, with what I had to, because he found my character for me.
We'll talk about that in one second. We have to change the tape.